young girl, scarcely 16. Thanks to my parents, lots of places I've seen, but never a place that I love as well as my Virgio home 'neath the maiden hill. My Virgio home, that heaven of mine, the home of my parents, so loving and kind. I love them so, and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden hill. The harbor's so pretty in the morning sunshine, as the seabirds and robins their sweet notes entwine. The fishing goes shiny in the water so still, here in my home 'neath the maiden hill. When I had trouble or if I was sad, I always found comfort from good friends I had. They knew that I loved them and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden hill. My Virgio home, that heaven of mine, the home of my parents, so loving and kind. I love them so, and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden hill. With her fishery failing, I may have to roam. Dear God, how I'd hate to leave my dear home, but each night in memory, sure I'll see it still. My Virgio home 'neath the maiden hill. My Virgio home, that heaven of mine, the home of my parents, so loving and kind. I love them so, and I always will. And my Virgio home 'neath the maiden hill.
Good evening. Welcome to This Week in Review. Tonight's stories include: this past week was Communication for Survival Week. St. John Central High hosted the provincial slow pitch softball tournament. Black and white photo display at the high school. SPCA pets need good homes. These stories and more coming up after this.
I was up to that new place the other day. Just up by the new hospital. Oh yes, custom carpet. That's it. My son, you should see the stuff they got up there. They got all kinds and everything to do with. Bessie, that's the wife. She's been keeping them on for ages to go up. Jerry, she said, it's not going to hurt you to go up and look around. So we went up. My son, I was amazed. The colors of paint you can get mixed up there is unreal. There's hundreds and hundreds of colors, the prettiest kind. And brushing rollers, my son, don't be talking. There's rollers that's lint-free, rollers of melamine paint, and brushes for painting counters. Well, I could go on and on.
This past week was Communication for Survival Week here in Burgeo. As part of the events planned for the week, 3 interactive TV programs were put out on this channel. These programs focused on a variety of issues that affect our community. Tuesday night got underway with a very productive panel discussion about youth issues. This panel was moderated by Kevin Dunphy, guidance counselor at the schools. Corporal Matheson of the local RCMP detachment also sat in on part of this panel.
Corporal Matheson, what do you feel is what would be the role of the RCMP with regards to this undertaking of dealing with the problems that we're having?
Well, I see the RCMP acting with the youth of Burgeo as supporting their efforts, helping them to coordinate themselves. Be a driving force maybe behind them, checking out things, checking out buildings, properties, making contacts. We certainly have the way with all to contact people around the country and around the province, like was mentioned on there. And we certainly don't mind participating with the youth in such an endeavor. It's to everyone's benefit. especially the communities and the police.
Okay. Thank you.
One other thing I forgot to mention, there could be some funds available for such a venture from the Mounted Police Foundation. I'm aware that recently monies were given to a group of teens and youth in Davis Inlet in Labrador of $8,000 to $10,000, and other projects in Canada are getting $15,000 and $20,000. So if you become organized, there's funds out there.
Okay.
I believe.
Okay. Well, that's something we certainly got to keep our ears open for, our ears and eyes open for any funds that we can accumulate. Now, if anyone in the out in the community's got any questions or comments to make with toward Corporal Paul Matheson, feel free to phone in. The numbers are on the screen. Okay, Corporal Matheson, this community policing. I know last year there was a community policing workshop, and I think that workshop stimulated a lot of ideas, and some of which are being addressed here tonight. It's kind of got the ball rolling in a lot of ways. And could you give us a little? I guess I think there's a lot of people in the community yet probably don't really know what community policing is and what it's about.
Well, if I may, I'm going to read just a little paragraph from here. Community policing is a partnership between the police and the community, sharing in the delivery of police services. This concept is the basis for the delivery of RCMP services now and for the future. Basically, the RCMP is trying to work more closely with the public, youth, teens, senior citizens, the general public, to hear their problems, their concerns, and find common solutions to their problems, to work together.
So it would be, the people would be they'd be dealing with their own problems, like more or less, I guess what I'm trying to understand is when it comes to say legal issues, probably youth crime, it could be the community taking on the responsibility or the prevention and the ways in dealing with
yes. Well, for one example, we're having a meeting on October 19th. It's a meeting regarding alternative measures. It's a program that's supported by the RCMP and the Department of Social Services. Kathy Cutler of Social Services has advised me there's a meeting on the 19th, and there's quite a few people have indicated an interest in this program. Very briefly, what it is, it's a method for the community to deal with youth first-time offenders involved in crime. It's a method for the community to deal with punishment or dealing with the crime, as opposed to us charging them and taking them to court.
Oh, okay.
It's a much better way of. I mean, we don't want to see, a lineup of youth at court every day. Every time we have court, it just doesn't work, in my opinion. And so it's very encouraging to see that we probably will have enough people to get an alternative measures program on the go. That's an example of how we could work together.
Are there other examples that you can give us from other initiatives that have been taken in other communities?
Well, there's not just the youth issue, of course. We're dealing with other communities, Ramia and Grey River, Francois, and Grand Bruit. But some of the things we've done and are trying to do, I've got a list here of things, but for example, I was approached by several business owners regarding shoplifting. Shoplifting was seen as a concern. So traditionally, we would try to catch people shoplifting. Well, that's very expensive and time-consuming, and it takes us away from doing probably more important drug enforcement or other programs. Being in the schools, talking about drug awareness. I heard somebody here say something about drug awareness in the schools.
And we got a drug awareness week coming up in November.
Yes.
You'll be approached on that.
But as a result of the business owners coming forward, we've had a meeting with the business owners. We had 30 to 40 business owners have a meeting at the community center one day, and we're going to have a shoplifting seminar hopefully before Christmas. But it's a way for us to work together with the business people to help solve their problem, as opposed to charging people and catching them is not always. So if they can prevent it.
Following the youth panel, we had a discussion about the IAS committee and its role here in Burgeo.
So my name is Bruce Gilbert, by the way. I'm one of the resource people with Communication for Survival. And with us here tonight, we're fortunate to have 3 volunteers who've given up their, at least part of their evening, to come by to the studio here. On my left is Bob Hutchings, who's the chairperson of the IAS committee here in Burgeo. And on Bob's left is, many of you know, Alistair Han, who's one of the committee members with the IAS. Welcome, Alistair. And next to Alistair is Milton Batcher, who's committee member with the IAS as well. So good to have you here, gentlemen, and we'll get right at it and not beat around the bush.
Okay.
So,
Thank you, Bruce.
the IAS. What is the IAS? It's been tossed about. Maybe you could take a shot at that, Bob.
Sure, no problem at all. Well, basically, the IAS, as you say, is an industrial adjustment service, and it's a service offered by the federal government through their HRDC office, HRDC being the Human Resource Development Canada office. And Burgeo comes under the Stephenville office, and most people may know Larry Peckford. He's been around for quite a few years in various committees and so on. And basically, that's where it stems from.
Okay.
In addition to that, I guess I should add, there are 3 types of IAS.
Okay.
There's for private business, mainly there I might as well. There's sectorial being there could be an IAS struck for something to do with, say, transportation or forestry, fishery, that sort of thing. And the one we have going here currently in Burgeo is what they call a community-based IAS. And we'll talk, I'm sure, a little more about that as we go along.
And what the differences are between the 3.
Exactly.
Okay, great. Alistair, now, where does this IAS sort of come from? Does it just sort of descend on Burgeo one day, or like what's the history? How does it sort of pop up? Like, how long has it been on the go? And
well, my first involvement with it, Bruce, was I guess a couple of months ago. I was approached by the manpower guy here, wanted me to represent the zone. As you know, I'm the zone representative for Zone 9 in this area. And they were forming an IAS committee to really look at, to try to get something going in Burgeo that probably would meet the poor economic times that Burgeo is going through at the present time, and to explore some alternate ways of bringing Burgeo back to the prosperity that it knew at one time. So from that, there was this IAS committee was struck, and this committee is made up of all the sectors around town. I mean, we've got well, Milton here, for instance, represents the education, and I represent a zone. We've got labor is representative, business is representative. Just about a cross section of all the different sectors in Burgeo is represented on this IAS board.
Okay. So, great. So we'll come back to some of the various sectors that are represented. But Milton, maybe I could just ask you, like, how long does this thing go on for? Is the IAS a permanent committee? Is it going to go forever, or is it got a temporary lifespan?
I guess it has a temporary lifespan. They don't go on forever. But it depends on the kind of work that your group is doing. I think at this point we have a mandate for about 7 months.
Okay.
After that, I kind of wait and see if we're active and if we have things on the go and they're good things, then I guess it will continue.
Tuesday night concluded with a panel discussion on the fishery.
Robert, maybe you can give us a little update. What's the latest? What's the latest in the plant and the struggle to get something happening at the plant?
Well, for me, what I want to make clear first is that the information that we have, that we are going to relate to the public, is that it's only information that we were given by the officials of Seafreeze. And whether it's the gospel information or not, I mean, we don't have any other thing to go on. So here tonight, I mean, what we pass on to the public, it is what was passed on to us.
Okay.
So if you want me to answer, I mean, what is the latest on the plant conditions? Well, it was Tuesday of last week. I guess we're sort of repeating ourselves from today's meeting. Last Tuesday, Mr. Barry and Mr. Rich Carter, along with Martin Carlson from Norway, was in here. And we had no idea at that time, until we got here, of what the meeting was going to consist of. And what it was, Since this committee was formed last year in December, prior to December, but it was December we had our first meeting, that we've been trying to get allocation of underutilized species from the federal government to put into our plant. And so far to date, we have got nowhere with the federal government. So Mr. Barry has been working hard at that as well, and he's got nothing back from the Deputy Minister of Fisheries, Mr. Rowett. Only little bits of paper, and that's not getting us anywhere. So he's got joined connections with a guy by the name of Martin Carlson from Norway on seals. And this was the main topic of the meeting last Tuesday when he came in for the meeting. And he added there that it was not sort of pushed in our face or anything. It was presented to us that he did have this for us if we was to accept it. And he would come in there and put in seals to start up this plant, along with whatever other species come forward. And so what he was looking at was probably looking at in vicinity of 100,000 seals and approximately 80 to 100 jobs to start up. Then that would all depend on, again, the allocation. Maybe tomorrow, and I hope it will, that we'll get a allocation of underutilized species. We already have a crab license, so it remains to be seen what quota of crab we'll get, which shall mean additional jobs as well. So this is where the latest stands, and as of this afternoon, we did have a meeting with the membership. This is where we approached first, because I think that was the ones that was directly affected was the workers of that plant, and it went over very well. The consensus of the crowd that was there, which I figure was in you're probably looking at over 200 workers showed up for the meeting, and as what I could see, that the vote went, I would say at least 99.9% in favor of taking this in and trying to get something started within our plant. So this is where she stands right now, and our next step is to get back to Mr. Barry with the answer of that we are willing to accept him with his plan to come in and operate the plant.
Programming continued on Wednesday night with a discussion about tourism in Burgeo, moderated by Bruce Gilbert of Communication for Survival.
The Regional Development Board for our zone, and I believe the Matthew is visiting two sites in our zone, one being Stephenville and Burgeo. I was just wondering if you had any advice for the organizing committee here in Burgeo of how they could capitalize on the Matthew visit, and if you had any words of advice that you could pass to them through this program.
Well, I think the Matthew visit is gathering incredible interest, and it's an event where once it leaves Bonavista and then begins circumnavigating the island, hitting into 16 other ports of call, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of people who will follow that boat. You'll see a lot of marine traffic follow the boat, and you'll also see a lot of media follow the boat. And of course, as people come to the island and have an opportunity to see it, they will travel to places where they can see the boat. So I think that the exposure that the boat brings in its travels will be one that we shouldn't underestimate. And I think that we're hearing talk of BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, doing a documentary of this voyage around the island. So that in itself means that Port Stephenville and Burgeo will receive exposure through that.
Right.
I guess my advice to host ports for the Matthew visit is that it's an opportunity for you to celebrate what we're all about as a people and as an island and as a province, and as well to celebrate your heritage and culture and do it through your events. I think what's very important for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians now to remember in anything they do in trying to appeal to tourists is that remember what the market is, that we have become very oriented towards what market is starting to come to Newfoundland and Labrador. And what we're finding is that people coming to Newfoundland and Labrador now are looking for learning experiences, they're looking to learn about our culture and heritage, and to learn about our traditional values and our traditional lifestyles and skills. And a case in point would be, I was at a trade show not too long ago where we had craft exhibitors. And we had people demonstrating crafts, the most popular crafts were those which were just traditional. There were people, literally hundreds of people, who used to gather around a gentleman who was making grub boxes. Very intrigued by it, very interested in knowing the story of how grub boxes have evolved in our province, and it's just one example of how one piece of our culture can be used to provide economic benefit to the producer, but also is one that brings appeal to those who come to visit. And I think that's the key that we have to do, is that we make sure that our events and our activities and the things that occur in our province are based upon what we have to offer people, our natural beauty, our scenery, our culture and heritage. And I think that's something that's very important. And that's why ventures like the Trinity Pageant and other interpretive drama that have occurred in the province go over very well, because they're informative, they're fun, and people come and they learn something about us when they leave. I think the other thing to remember as well is that, particularly for someone for an area like Burgeo and Ramia, is that there's going to be a lot of marine traffic, and I think that one of the things that we really see as an opportunity in Newfoundland is the flotilla that's coming down from the Great Lakes and going to come up and meet the boat and meet the Matthew in Bonavista. Is that the pleasure craft industry is one that is very much underdeveloped in this province. And I'm sure people in Burgeo and Ramia have seen people who come into their ports in yachts. Many more people would do it if they knew if we had something to offer them. And I think that if they're in 1997, ports like Burgeo should keep in mind the needs of those who come by pleasure craft or otherwise. And marine traffic will be a very important part of this. And I think a lot of people will come to accompany the boat and to be part of the events and activities in each port of call. And there's a great opportunity for them as well to go back and to tell their friends who tell to friends about the great time they had in Newfoundland. So that's just some thoughts I guess I have on that, Tom.
No, you mentioned earlier in your comments about the restructuring of the Cabinet Committee. I know there has been a lot of, controversy over the last couple of years with the committee, and it was being set up and what some of the activities of the corporation, and then the restructuring. And you mentioned about some of the money or infrastructure dollars that were available to the Vana Vista area. And I know a few communities in our zone and Burgeo and a few others were, a bit disappointed that the dollars weren't available to some communities to put some of the things in place to do some of their work, I guess. And I don't know if you had any comments about that, but I know that it's difficult in some communities to get the volunteers motivated and get them working on a project where they have very little, in the way of financial resources to do some of the things that they'd like to do. But I think some of the communities will pull together and do the things that need to be done. But I think that this is a great opportunity that may have gotten off on the wrong foot, but hopefully that we can take advantage of it.
Well, I guess the only comment I could make on that is that, Bonavista has lobbied very hard for what it's received, and they were lucky enough to receive funding under the Economic Renewal Agreement. And it's, I guess, part of their long-term strategy here in trying to look at alternative industries such as tourism. And it has caused problems, but that's inherent in any time a region or a community receives funding. There are others who lose because of that, or who feel that the money could have been better spent. And I guess that there's many other cases that we can discuss like that. But I think that to those who work hard, and I've been a witness to this here, and I will not hide the fact that the political will was there as well. But I think that the people in this area have been very strong-willed for a long time and made some very strong representation and knew what they wanted when it comes to tourism infrastructure and how they wanted to develop the product here. And I think we're seeing other examples of that in the province, of where the government is willing to invest money into tourism infrastructure if the community has clear focus on where it wants to go and what it wants to do. And I think that that's very, very important. And I think that as well, it's very important for the community to realize that it must invest in itself. And one of the problems, if I can say this, is that one of the problems we've had in Bonavista, that sometimes one of the negative fallouts of what has happened is that people now have become complacent in saying that, well, we got that from government, let's get something else from government, and we'll go back at them again. And it's one of the age-old problems I've run into many times with government investment, is that people begin to forget very quickly where there are investment opportunities in their own community or regions. And we can talk about that all night, but it's one where I think the government is willing to make the investment if the community and the areas are very focused and have a clear plan in place of where they want to go.
Programming concluded on Thursday night with a panel who explained a little more about the zonal process and the long-range regional economic zone.
Right here on my right is Gord Tucker. He was a member of our provisional board, which was the first board that developed, I guess, the final board. Next we have Alistair Han. He's our member on the zone board right now. We have Edie Anderson as a concerned citizen of Burgeo about what's happening, I guess. And we have Tom Hutching, who's the development officer with the board. So right now I'm going to start off and get Tom to give us a bit of information on what is the board.
Thank you, Bruce. As I mentioned earlier this evening in the program, I just outlined a little bit about what the board was about and the area that it covered. And basically the Long Range Regional Economic Development Board is I guess one of the 20 economic development boards that are being set up in the province right now. And our board has been officially in place, I guess, since April of this year. And we recently just hired myself and another staff member to work with the board to what we're hoping to do is over the next 9 months is to develop a strategic plan for the zone. And what that strategic plan will entail, I guess, is looking at the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities of all the communities that make up our zone and combine it into one strategic plan that will identify opportunities and, I guess, an action plan for development in the zone. The zone covers the areas of Burgeo, Ramia, Grey River, and Francois in this area, and also includes the communities of Stephenville, all the communities on the Port-au-Port Peninsula, and all the communities from Highlands right up to St. George's in the Bay St. George area. And it also includes the community of Gallant as well. Right now there's approximately about 55 communities in our zone with a population of about 28,000 people in total. And I guess the Burgeo-Ramie area represents a fair size, I guess, a percentage of the population of the zone. As someone mentioned in one of our previous shows, that Burgeo is, you may have seen on the tape, that Burgeo is one of the largest communities in our zone. So this area is going to play a very important role in the development of our plan. And I guess I'll have a chance later to talk a bit more about what the actual objectives of the board are, but that's, I guess, a quick and dirty overview of what the board is all about.
In addition to the panels and discussions, there was also a great deal of entertainment included in the 3 nights of programming.
Last night I did dream that out on the sea fish were bountiful, plentiful as could be. No need for to worry, no need for to care. Times were good now, jobs everywhere. And there in this room I dared to dream. Good folks were talking, planning it seemed, not for to slaughter, to rape or to maim, but to keep healthy the ocean's domain. The bigger the company, the harder they try. The room moved brighter and the sunshine outside producers and unions, bureaucrats and the banks, building a future, leaving no weaker links. All there in this room, I dare to dream. Good folks were talking, planning it seemed, not for the slaughter, to rape or to maim, but to keep healthy the ocean's domain. And the workers looked happy, calm and content. Now there's a future, that's what it all meant. No good side or bad side, no strife anywhere. Just people are learning to get along and to share. Out there in this room, I dare to dream. Good folks were talking, planning it seemed, not for the slaughter, to rape or to maim, but to keep healthy the ocean's domain. All there in this room, I dare to dream. Good folks were talking, planning it seemed, not for to slaughter, to rape or to maim, but to keep healthy the ocean's domain. But to keep healthy the ocean's domain.
Also, as part of Communication for Survival Week, the Black and White Photography Club held a photo display at the high school. The Black and White Photography Club here in Burgeo got its start through Communication for Survival. Now this group are taking pictures, developing their own negatives, and printing their own pictures. The ones seen here are only a small sample of their newly found talent. Stay with us. There's more of This Week in Review coming up in just a moment.
Lizzie wanted a carrot for the spare bedroom. She wanted a pretty rose color. She said, well, see, boy, when we got up there, they had so many pretty colors, she didn't know what to choose from. I swear they had 100 or more color samples there. Oh, man, it was unbelievable. Well, when we ended up, we bought enough carpet to do the old house. My son, the old place looks something nice now, painted carpet right through. Everything looks brand new. Bessie is right pleased. Come to think of it, I is too. Yes, sir, for your painting and flooring needs, go to Custom Carpet. You'll be so glad you did.
7 softball teams from across the province were in Burgeo this past weekend to participate in the provincial slow-pitch softball tournament. Burgeo coach Mr. Max Pink hosted the opening ceremonies at the Lions Centre on Friday.
First of all, I'd like to welcome all of you in town. Most of you is probably the first time. It's nice to have you here. Getting ballots was a bit of a problem, getting enough people to ballot all the students then, but eventually it happened. Yesterday at lunchtime we had enough ballots. Hope you're all comfortable where you're staying. If you have any problems or any questions or anything like that, you can come by and see me. I might be able to help you out somewhere along the line. Coaches probably have a curfew in place anyway for the students from their schools. So we'll leave that with the coaches and the ballots then. We have here representing Avalon South, we have Dunn Memorial. So we'll get Dunn Memorial began now. J.M. Oaks Collegiate. These people are here from 12 years. We have Dorset Collegiate here. They're representing Central West, I think it is. They're from Philly's Island. St. Joseph's, that's from Lamoline, Durham Peninsula. That's serious, the boys. I know very well from University way back when. Ron Kelly Memorial from Northern Peninsula, Fort Saunders. Legalis, the team that's the Western Champs, representing Ardmore. And of course the host team, St. John's and Troy.
Games got underway on Friday, October 18th at 8:30 p.m. as J.M. Olds Collegiate defeated Dunn Memorial by a score of 9-6. In the second game, St. John Central High slaughtered Dorset Collegiate 15-2. Then, Legale overtook St. Joseph's by a score of 14-12. At 12:30 p.m., Dunn Memorial whipped Dorset Collegiate 14-3. The next game saw Ron Calley against the Western Region champs Legale. Ron Calley came out on top by a score of 7-2. The host team, St. John Central High, then defeated J.M. Olds Collegiate 9-3. In the seventh game, Ron Calley conquered St. Joseph's 11-6. And in the final game on Friday, Dunn Memorial edged out St. John Central High 10-9. In the last game of regular play, which was held on Saturday morning, Dorset Collegiate defeated J.M. Olds Collegiate 11-8. In the semifinals, first place in Division A, Dunn Memorial, were up against second place in Division B, Legale. Legale advanced to the finals after overtaking Dunn Memorial 11-9. The second game of the semifinals, seen here, saw the first place team in Division B, Ron Calley, take on the second place team in Division A, St. John Central High. After a great effort, St. John Central High came up short by a score of 13-6, and Ron Calley advanced to the finals against Legale.
Here we go, Jeff! Oh,
But in this final game, Ron Calley players were on a roll, and they took the championship, slaughtering Legale 14-1.
championship team from Fort Saunders, Ron Kelly. Okay, Jamie Corman. Jeremy Pavey. Dylan Rumble. Frankie Gould. There you go, did it get it? Andrew one of their coaches, Rod Cornett. He's supposed to be able to raise. There you go, Billy, finally got one. And now, what I consider at least to be the most important awards that we give out here is the sportsmanship combined with the ability award. And I think a lot of that is certainly based on sportsmanship. I think the person that has been chosen there certainly exemplified both ability as well as sportsmanship. And the person that the name that has been passed along to me is Blair Rumble. This is something here that winning team. The championship banner. That's what we want to see. Teams are coming to get that.
The staff at St. John Central High would like to thank all those who volunteered to take billets. Mr. Max Pink should also be commended for organizing this tournament as well as getting the tournament held here in Burgeo. Stay with us for more of This Week in Review following these words from tonight's sponsor.
Just a minute now, Bessy's singing out to me. Oh yes, it's Bessie. What say, old dear? You're going up to custom carpet, look for some borders and paper to match your new carpet. Wait for me, because I'm coming too. I love to go up there. Yes, sir, custom carpet is some nice place. If you don't know what I'm talking about, your neighbor do. Got to go now before Bessie goes and leave me. Wait for me, Bessie, because I'm going to custom carpet too. Yes, sir.
SPCA's Pet of the Week. This is Sparky. He is a 1-year-old beagle. He is house-trained and very gentle. Sparky loves to play ball and walks well on a leash. BBS Playbill. Join us on Monday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. for a rebroadcast of Pansy's Garden. Tune in on Tuesday at 7 p.m. for a rebroadcast of Up the Shack featuring Aidan Foley. Tune in on Wednesday at 7 p.m. for the Thanksgiving church service from St. John the Evangelist Church. Join Marie, Melissa, and Pansy Saturday morning, 11 a.m. for Pansy's Garden. And I'll be here again next week with This Week in Review. Please stay tuned now for Up the Shack featuring Aidan Foley. For This Week in Review, I'm Dave Cooper. Good night.